Hi, Unwritten Records listeners. You can find every podcast on Spotify, LinkedIn, or YouTube. Join us live on the third Thursday of every month on Microsoft Teams. Unwritten Records is presented by the California Young Surveyors Network with support from the California Land Surveyor Association, bringing career-defining surveying stories from industry veterans, up-and-coming party chiefs, and the best technicians across California and beyond. Sponsorships for Unwritten Records go directly to curating an ever-expanding library of books, private records, and verbal testimonies for land surveyors everywhere. The California Young Surveyors Network and their partners have a goal to procure, restore, and distribute the testimonies of land surveyors before they are lost to time. Okay, and with that, let's go! On today's Unwritten Records, we're talking with Tim Ralls, a man who wears many different hats on any given day, about his transition into the land surveying industry after his time serving in the military. We will also dive into his efforts teaching the next generation of surveyors through the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 12 and the Southern California Surveyor Joint Apprenticeship Committee. Welcome to Unwritten Records, Tim.
What's up, Parker? How you doing, man?
Well, thank you. I think I want to start with just who you are. I chuckled with myself when I spent way too much time putting your bio on the marketing page together for our discussion. It's truly impressive with what you've accomplished in your life. You shared with me that you're a father, a husband, a veteran, a teacher and mentor, a high school dropout turned lifelong learner, a holder of 6 college degrees, a fifth generation surveyor, a jack of all trades land surveyor in training. So naturally, my first question to you is, what did 7-year-old Tim think he was going to be when he grew up?
So, honestly, when how everybody does the graduation ceremonies from kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
and they tell the entire crowd what they wanted to do. At that moment, I told everybody that I wanted to be an ice cream man. That was the high bar for me, is to get my own ice cream truck and to go through town and sell everybody ice cream. That was that was the goal.
Do you have a flavor or two that you think were going to be your specialty?
I was kind of upset when they stopped the Choco Taco, from what I hear.
Yeah,
The Choco Taco and the strawberry shortcake one. Those are it.
I love the Choco Taco. I don't think I gave, though, who you are enough merit. So if you wouldn't mind, take us along your life story, your time in the military, and kind of how that leads into land surveying now.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in California. Went to Martin Luther King High School for a bit. School was never really my thing. I struggled in high school, struggled even before that, and sat there, went through some family troubles. Dad went to prison, and that made school completely useless to me. I don't need to know about osmosis or photosynthesis when your dad's up in the pen. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there, and when that happened, I had some really, really good people look out for me and step up and just kind of tell me to pull my head on my ass, for lack of better terms. And those were like my 3 teachers that were absolutely amazing, and my stepdad and my mom, who absolutely whooped my butt into shape. So my ROTC instructor, which was Gunnar Rhodes, who he was an absolute presence felt in Martin Luther King in general. He was assistant principal. He was the ROTC instructor. Another ROTC instructor was Chief Macias, another just solid human being. My stepdad and my mom all kind of sat me down, told me about what was going on. I pretty much failed my first 3 years of high school. And yeah, I ended up having to drop out of high school, go to what we know as Rain Cross. And that place was intense. Like, I was never a disrespectful student. My parents always raised me with respect. Yes, sir, no, ma'am, stuff like that. And everybody at Raincross was pretty much, you got expelled from school, you're in juvenile detention, or you're in the system. So you go to school, you go with a bunch of like straight up gangsters, cholos, stuff like that. And then you just had nerdy Tim, who just didn't want to go to school. So I ended up going there. My mom pushed me insanely hard to where I ended up finishing 3 years of school in the remainder of my junior year. So 3 years of school in a year, basically, to where I could get back into school at Martin Luther King High School with my class and finish up my senior year with them. So it worked out really, really well. I was actually dual enrolled, so I was going to school by myself and also going to school at King. It was chaos, but it kind of was the chaos that I needed, and it really, really helped me later in life. Let's see, from there, I kind of noticed who around me really helped me. That was Gunnar Rhodes, who was a United States Marine for 20 years. That was my stepdad, who was a United States Marine for 8 years. That was Chief Macias, who was a corpsman for 20 years. He was a greenside corpsman, so he ran around with the Marines, and he's like our doctor.
Mm.
Patches us up when we're hurt. So that's when I realized, like, you know what, I want to be more like these people. So I was knocking on the recruiter's door. I was always the biggest dude at the high school. Like, I was always one of the bigger dudes in my classes, but I was always the youngest. So there I was at 16, knocking on the recruiter's door, like, "Hey, can I get in here? I'll sign some documents. I'll go right now." That didn't work out, so they ended up having me wait till I was 17, and I think it was like a week after my 17th birthday, I enlisted. And yeah, and then I finished up with high school. I graduated with my class. It was a good time. From there, I just waited for my ship date. Let's see, I think I waited about a year. I ended up going to boot camp like a couple days after my 18th birthday. Boot camp was your typical run, scream, run chaos. It's one of those things that, like, while you're going through it, you hate it and it's horrible,
Mm.
but it's like the funniest place that you're not allowed to laugh at. just a lot of dumb stories that are always a good time. After that, I went to comm school over in 29 Palms, where I became a field radio operator, which was pretty cool. Everybody needs to communicate, so I got to kind of go to a couple different places.
Mm.
Um, Went over to Japan for 2 years. Then from there, I got to go to Thailand. From there, 2011, we got hit by the big tsunami. So we had to deal with the tsunami and then provide humanitarian aid for the tsunami, which was cool and stressful. It was cool to do some real world stuff. We were pulling out of Afghanistan, Iraq, so deployments to combat in areas kind of slowed down. But this was kind of a way for active duty Marines to kind of actually still do something. So that was pretty cool. After 7th Comm, I went over to 1st Battalion 6 Marines, which is a grunt battalion out of Camp Lejeune. And there I got to do a completely different side of communications. Instead of doing communications for the generals and the colonels, I got to go do platoon level communications, kicking in doors, calling in mortars, working with machine gunners, like the main body force of the Marine Corps, the stuff that you see in the commercials. And that was cool. Again, all in itself there. Like, out of everyone there, dude, the machine gunners are my favorite people. They like, machine gunners are just good people. Then a little bit after that, I think Benghazi happened, and then we had a unit get selected to go deploy and go be like 911 to embassies, basically. So I got attached to 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion along with Marines from 1st Battalion 6 Marines, and we got to deploy with them to Spain and Italy. And that, again, was just awesome. I wasn't a recon Marine. I'm just a basic field radio operator, but I'm with these high level SOCOM dudes that were the most humble people ever. I sat there and I remember sitting there, I was on duty and I'm driving these guys to a range, and we got like 40 people inside of a 12 passenger van. And our team mascot was Katy Perry at the time. That's all that we would ever listen to on the radio. and you see all these dudes that are just straight jacked, just all seeing Katy Perry, Eye of the Tiger, and you start to go through and you're like, dude, that's our EOD guy. He's the guy who works with explosives. That's a machine gunner. That's a sniper. He's been to Afghan 4 times. It's like, these guys are the most humble goofballs I've ever met. And it was a cool, like, and my tour like experience. It was awesome to be with those guys. Um, Basically after that, I got out as a corporal. I kind of blew out my knee, blew out my back. So continuing was kind of out of the question. Um, After the Marine Corps, I was home for about 50, or no, I was back in the States for 15 days after my deployment. And that's when my contract ended. I sat there and I got out of the Marine Corps and transitioned back to California and started to do kind of like the, okay, what's next situation. At first, I wanted to be a Riverside County Sheriff and follow that path, or I wanted to be a teacher. And because that was my big thing, is I really like teaching. It's, I love that. Teaching kids something they don't know, and especially trying to be the next Gunner Rhodes or the next Chief Macias that truly cares about their people. We need more of that. And then my dad was like, hey, you know what? You should take the local 12 test. It just opened up. It hadn't opened up in 12 or 13 years. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go do that for a plan D, whatever here, dad, I'll go take the test. Luckily I was in college algebra and I killed the test, nailed it, passed with flying colors. I got to the next step where they're like, oh, okay, cool. Congratulations. You passed. This is how much you could make. I saw how much we made in the union. I'm like, dude, screw teaching. I'm not going to go, let me go get my master's degree to get $60,000 a year. Nah, because I still hadn't really honed in on college success there yet. So I got into surveying, and I mean, that's pretty much all I've been doing ever since. Um, I started at a small mom and pop shop, and it was cool. It got me my feel for surveying, and I've had experience before, but it really got me out in the field, got to do all that. But I got to feel like the rigors of being at a small shop. And next thing you know, work slowed up enough to where I was unneeded. I sat there, I got let go because we didn't have any work. And I think within 4 hours, I got pulled on by Hunsaker Associates out of Riverside, and pretty much been there ever since. I'm going on, my daughter's 10, so I'm going on my 11th year here at Hunsaker. I did a year of the Riverside office, then I ended up transferring to the Irvine office, and it's been pretty freaking awesome. While all of that was happening, I wanted to keep using my GI Bill because I was I was providing for 3 people. It's me, my wife, and my youngest at the time, and wages weren't that great. So I used my GI Bill to kind of supplement as an income to make that happen. So I just kept going to school. I stuck with the apprenticeship, kept going to school, and I had to go to school full time in order to get a full paycheck from the BAH, or else it would just be wasted. Because it's not the GI Bill, they don't pay you. We'll give you $500,000. We'll give you 36 months. Whatever you fit in there, we'll pay you. So it's like, hey, you're either going to go to school full time or you're not. So I go to school full time, and going to school full time, working full time, apprenticeship on the weekends. It was a little rough, but kind of just shut up in color, just made it happen. Um, as I worked my way through the apprenticeship, I kind of started to notice that our education in the apprenticeship was hurting a little bit. Had been redesigned. We don't have professionally educated people. We got other surveyors. So I kind of noticed a niche where I could fit in. Okay, well, let me go get my bachelor's in workforce education development. So that's where I started really doing my targeted education. That's where I picked my major once I was about like 2 years into the apprenticeship. Yeah, and while I was doing that, I had to take general ed courses anyways. So I ended up getting an Associate of Science in Behavioral Studies. Then I turned my apprenticeship into Associate of Science in Chainman School, Associate of Science in Surveying and Party Chief School. Ended up pushing on to my bachelor's, which is a bachelor's in Workforce Education Development. From there, I went on to my master's, which was a master's in Workforce Education Development, which then turned into a master's in Occupational Learning and Instruction Design. And then I started toying with the thought of creating my own LLC and my own company to where I can then market myself to the union as a curriculum consultant. But I felt like I knew nothing about business. So I was like, screw it, let's go back to school again. And I went and I got my MBA from Cal Baptist University here in Riverside. I mean, other than that, I took my FS. I tried to like flip flop it between personal education and professional education. And then I flip flopped into my FS, did the LSIT, got my drone license, studying for the PS soon. And I'm still trying to figure out my PhD or EDD so I could be Dr. Ralls. But that's pretty much it and how I kind of got here.
Well, first off, thank you. It's a really, really great look into your life, and I do appreciate you taking the time to share with us your story. Diving back a little bit, let's go a little bit deeper into how did you hear about, land surveying as the first option? I know you mentioned your stepdad talking about IUOE and that entrance process. So what was your first experience getting into land surveying specifically?
So I've had family scattered through surveying for on both sides of my family. So my grandfather on my dad's side, he worked for Caltrans as a surveyor. He was a party chief out there. My uncle owned his own surveying company, which was a signatory company through the International Union of Operating Engineers. My dad still works for the company that I work for right now as a party chief. My grandfather was a licensed surveyor and owner in Orange County. He was LS 3999. And then my grandfather's grandfather was actually a licensed surveyor out of Washington, and his LS was 270. So, and I think that was in like 1903 or something like that. Like it's
One of the first.
yeah, it goes way back. We got some lineage.
Very awesome. So looking at the two careers that you've had so far, what are some skills or experiences that mapped well together?
So I think just any branch in general maps over really, really well. I, of course, can only talk about the things that I've experienced in the Marine Corps, but this is something that I am trying to push to like Local 12 and even just employers in general is to hire more veterans because there are so many skills that transfer over so well, right? So not only do you have direct MOSs that are inside those branches, you have land surveyors being trained every single day by the United States government. An 0261 is a geospatial intelligence like operator or something like that. They pretty much do topo maps. Someone has to create the maps and give it to SEAL Team 6 before they take down Osama. Those are those dudes.
Mm.
So, and I think there are about like 6 or 7 MOSs that are inside of the military that utilize surveying as a skill. Okay. Or as a trade. Outside of that, to me, there are still so many skills that transfer over so well. Okay. Like for me as a radio operator, we had to calc and call in coordinates, whether it's for airstrikes, whether it's for CASEVACs, getting Marines out of there that have been injured. We have to deal with that. We have to deal with maps. We have to deal with land nav, all that stuff. So there's definitely like some transferable skills there. Machine gunners, surprisingly enough, they're not all about just slinging lead and sending rounds down range. If you get the chance to ever see so it's a Marine Corps, what is it? A freaking they have to draw their sectors of fire on a card because when Parker comes up to relieve me, and you're going to be the next gunner, I get to go sleep now. You look at this card and you see everything out there. You see that your sectors fire from 27 degrees to 97 degrees. That is where you're in control of, and they have to draw each and every tree, and they have to. detail that they put into these range cards. It'll make some of these party chiefs' notes look like garbage. They're so great with their skills. So to me, that's completely transferable over. Um, from there, I sat there and I think I had to do antenna propagation and theory classes. How radio waves work in certain environments. How do I utilize a radio wave and an antenna to, instead of being omnidirectional to where it blasts everywhere, I can make this antenna be at a tilt at a 45-degree angle, bounce it off the troposphere, bounce off the water, and we can make a single handheld shot from Okinawa, Japan to California. It's learning about angles, departure, radio waves, how that impacts my GPS when I set it up. How is this antenna going to bleed into that valley, or how is it not? Like, there's so many skills from the Marine Corps that I feel transfer over into surveying.
What about something that doesn't? How did you, maybe in the early parts of your career, feel like you were starting from scratch, not having anything that was maybe a particular skill that didn't transfer over that you needed to learn?
That, that was math. The whole like Marines are crayon eaters. Oh, there wasn't much math in the Marine Corps. I wasn't too worried about it. There was a little bit of algebra when I was there, but other than that, it's also going back to my own personal education and my educational history. Going back to being that high school somewhat failure, I was in the same math class from 7th grade until senior year. I knew the hell out of some algebra, but anything past that into geometry, I couldn't even spell trig, let alone do it. So coming out of the Marine Corps, that was like, you want me to do what? Oh, you want me to? So, okay, once I kind of got onto it, and luckily I got into the algebra class, it made sense and took it further. But that was the big fear for me, was all of the math that we have to do as surveying or surveyors.
Now, both of your careers have both heavily relied on teamwork. How do those dynamics compare?
Um, I definitely think they both rely heavily on teamwork, but I think there's like a common misconception where, like, in the Marine Corps, all we do is scream, and you're going to do what you're told because I'm a corporal and you are a private. Where in reality, that doesn't work, right? We're starting to see this paradigm shift of leadership in the Marine Corps, even outside of, I need to treat you like a human and we need to work together. This survey crew can only be as good as it can be with two bodies on it. I need to respect my shaman. Shaman needs to respect the chief. We need to work together in order to accomplish this mission, right? And I definitely see it happening a little bit more now, to where that old school apprenticeship mentality where kind of abuse the apprentice a little bit, I see that dissipating, which I love. It's I still see some of the, like, my side of the truck stuff, which I don't truly agree with. Um, I really want to push leaders to take accountability of their people and show them the world, show them how to do it. Chairman should understand how to work as a chief. Same thing in the Marine Corps. A lance corporal needs to understand how to work as a corporal, because when that corporal gets shot, you're going to step up. When that chief has an off day, I need you to be the eyes. So that's kind of where I see most of it. Or I'm not even sure if I really answered that question in full, but
No, absolutely. Was it challenging going back into a student mindset after the military and going back into taking classes again?
not really. It was kind of like the hardest day at school is a lot easier than the things that I've dealt with in the Marine Corps. So it kind of just made everything seem easier. And it's not like college really isn't hard. It's not made there to break you. It's, you do what you're told when you're told, you write your paper, you call it a day. I feel like a lot of people are very, very scared of school. I think we put a lot of emphasis on it as if it's this unobtainable task, when in reality, if you kind of just bear and grin and fight your way through and just make it happen. So to me, it was not very complicated, even at the graduate level. It was stressful, but you kind of just make it work.
Now, what kind of advice would you give someone who is looking to make a career change? Not necessarily in the same shoes that you walked in from the military into surveying, but as a generality.
So in general, I just always, I mean, if you're really unhappy with where you're at, do it. It's you're not stuck where you're at. I'm not stuck as a high school dropout. I'm doing whatever the hell I want to do every single day just to make sure that I'm a little bit better. Um, that being said, if you do it, do your research. Okay, do some occupational analysis. There's this really cool website. It's called Own It Online. All right, so I've done this. I've done a little bit of career counseling for a couple of kids, and I've also done career counseling for like younger brothers, cousins, stuff like that. To where this website's ran by the Department of Labor. It's also ran by the Department of Education to provide statistics on a specific profession. Right. So we sit here, we type in surveying and mapping technicians. Okay. We can understand what they're doing. We can understand their basic tasks, technology skills, what you might do, work context, training and credentials, right? With all this information, you can understand what's happening to that profession, how it's happening to that profession, and what you can do to get into that profession. Okay. So, and the cool part is all of this is based on federal data. You can sit there and search by your zip code, where's the closest school that teaches land surveying? Whether it is an MSJC, whether it's a 4-year college, all of it is here. Apprenticeship opportunities, your SKAs, your skills, knowledge, abilities. They even have our wages and employment trends. Okay, which is the one I'm pretty happy with. Expected growth, we got faster than average. So we should have a little survey boom here shortly. But so if you want to know about a profession, do a professional analysis or look into the profession, see how you measure up. Utilize these websites because this is what the government says you should know. This is what the government says you should do. Utilize this along with your job listing to create a better resume. Understand that you have to kind of fit the market. Well, the government defines the market right here. So I think if you do your research and make sure that you're well prepared, then you should absolutely go for it and make that change.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Tim, for giving us a look back at your transition into surveying. I want to switch gears and into the present and into your role as an instructor and a mentor. What is the Southern California Surveyor Joint Apprenticeship Committee?
All right. So for us, we just call it the JAC, right? That is a lot of words to say. So the JAC is the educational facilitators of the Surveyor's Apprenticeship for Local 12 and the signatory employers of Local 12. You want to be a surveyor for one of our companies? Cool. You need to go through the JAC. We need to teach you. We need to certify that you are to this standard, you are to this level. Okay. So I think we teach roughly about like 200-300 students a year, or that's usually like how big our student body is. You have pretty much like a 4-year chainman apprenticeship. And then after that, you have about like a 2 or 3-year party chief apprenticeship. Some of these years may vary just due to the fact that you might go to school on Saturdays, you might go to school Tuesday, Wednesday, and have field classes. So there is some play in there. And then they have to deal with college holidays, union holidays, state holidays. So if you're on a Saturday, it takes a little bit longer. But for me personally, it took me 4 years to get through the apprenticeship, 3 years to get through my party chief school. And then, yeah, pretty much right as I was wrapping up with my party chief school, I was wrapping up with my bachelor's to where I then interned at the JAC, going over a curriculum and all that. And then I became an instructor. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the JAC at least.
At what point did you realize you wanted to give something back as a mentor or as an educator? And how did your involvement come about with the JAC?
Okay. Um, so I kind of realized as I was going through it, the JAC did have some deficiencies. Some of their stuff was outdated, or it could just be done better. Me being a crappy student, it it was harder to learn because it was you had to read through the fluff and kind of really see what they wanted. So me wanting to be a teacher and me wanting to help out those struggling students and understanding it from that side, I knew that I can't change anything from the outside. You have to get involved. And in order to do that, I got involved. Um, it, and then really, it was just me wanting to get back to that roots of like, this is the perfect world for me. I get to do the one thing that I wanted to do prior to surveying. I get to teach and I get to survey. It's kind of a cool little gig here. So that was pretty much it. And then now I'm about to wrap up with my very first group of apprentices. I got like 13 that they're wrapping up with their chainman school after 3 years. And I'm going to get started on the next one.
So share with us what your teaching philosophy is when it comes to training apprentices, both in the classroom and in the field.
So for me, I feel like it's the easiest way to put it is a multimodal student centered approach, right? I want to care about the student. I want to take care of the student on the individual level, but I want to train them in different modalities. So maybe they can pick up just 2% from each one, right? I can't train you and just be straight kinesthetic, or I can't be straight verbal, or you're just going to read this or audio visual. It's not going to work, especially with a trade that we have to where it is hands on. So I want to take a moment. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to learn theoretically how to do this. We're going to read about it. Okay, cool. Now we're actually going to go out in the field and we're going to do some practice. We're going to apply the things that we've learned. So now that we learned how to do differential leveling, we've learned how to make the adjustments. Let's do it. And I'll show you how to do it in the field. I'll watch you do it in the field. And then I'm going to sit there and put you in an awkward situation to where we're going to try to make it a little bit harder. I think one thing that I like to do that I know other instructors do it too is I want to put my kids in the hot seat. I want them to feel the pain of chiefing, right? I want them to understand that it's not so. You get a seasoned chief on the other side, he makes it look easy. But I want my students to understand, okay, cool. When they chiefed out on Saturday and they had to stake that 1,000 feet of sewer, this is what I was thinking about. So maybe my chief is thinking about that right now. So let me try and help him by doing this. So that's another thing is I just want the training to be as realistic as possible, if not in worser conditions. It's like I'll sit there and I like to mess with them. I sit there, oh, hey, water truck just parked on line. They're not moving. You got to pick the gun up, get it to a freaking other spot, back site, check all your stuff again, redo it. Or I go over there and I go, oh, dude, it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. Your radio just died. Your antenna just lost. Okay, cool. So you need to stand at the instrument like we did a little bit older, right? And now you need to communicate with hand and arm signals from here to there. And I'll sit there and I pulled my motorcycle up one day and I just sat on my bike, revving my bike so they couldn't talk. Will they ever have to do that? No, they have cell phones. But if I can stress them out in this safe environment as much as I possibly can, going to work on Monday and staking some curb in a perfect environment will be very, very simple.
No, that's great. What other core skills are you focusing on early in this apprenticeship program, maybe beyond just technical knowledge, like staking a curve?
So for us, the program really just, we are a math heavy program. It is semester 3 with a triangle, semester 4 with more trig, coordinate geometry, math, right? But for me, it's like I want to teach the kids soft skills. We don't have a problem teaching our kids how to utilize the equipment. These kids nowadays are studs. They are so good with technology. Like that's not the hard part. It's the soft skills of emphasizing reliability, taking ownership of your truck. That party chief just drives the truck. The way the truck looks is an absolute reflection of the chainman, in my opinion. Right? So taking ownership of that, showing up on time, freaking, it's those soft skills that I feel like we're lacking nowadays. And it's pushing them to understand that, hey, if I can't trust you with an alarm clock, I'm not trusting you with this $7,000 data collector on this $40,000 piece of equipment on this multi-million-dollar project. So getting them to kind of like understand that how you do one thing is how you do everything is really my main goal for the soft skills and the stuff outside the technical scope of what I want them to take away.
And the world of surveying is full of new technology too. So, how has the curriculum evolved with advances in GPS, UAVs, digital tools, and how do you cater these concepts to the next generation of surveyors while still giving emphasis to the important tools like learning those core concepts that you were just sharing with us?
So I it is the one downside with JC is that it is kind of a pain in the butt to change curriculum. Okay. But the one plus side is 90% of our field staff or 90% of our instructors are field staff. We all have trucks. We all have the latest technology. We're all working for big name companies. So we're capable of utilizing the core curriculum to build an emphasis on that foundation, right? The foundational skills of surveying so we know who we are as surveyors. But I can also just go grab my work truck with my $6,000 drone. We set up, I got our JAC has about like 6 or 7 GPS units to where we can go run a static network. We can then fly a drone with RTK on it. We can then process it. I brought in the scanner the other day. I think not this weekend, but next weekend, we actually have a GPR, ground penetrating radar, and a utility mapping expert coming in from Gaida. Dude's an absolute stud. Um, so he's coming in to teach us these newer technologies just so we can make sure that these kids, when they get out of the program, they are self-sufficient and fully trained land surveyors capable of doing whatever is under the scope of land surveying.
Fantastic. So, I'm going to ask this question from kind of two different lenses here. One, as you going through the apprenticeship program and you teaching the apprenticeship program, what were, common struggles that you see new apprentices face, and how would you help them overcome those as a mentor now?
Yeah, so again, I feel like the common struggles that we deal with is the math deficiencies. Even though I have my own educational history, it's not that different from a lot of people because even though I just never took geometry and was stuck in that math class, we're getting kids that this is their second profession, that they haven't touched a college book in 10 years. I think one of my kids is in his 40s. So he hasn't touched algebra, geometry, trig in 20 years. So it's kind of the same, but different, I understand the struggle. And that's probably one of the biggest things we deal with. I think other than that, we just have to deal with the basics of kids not showing up or kids having an issue with just authority. And that's kind of where I get to come in and kind of have that Gunner Rhodes moment of like having the heart to heart and be like, hey, you can either pull your head out of your butt or you can tell me another job opportunity that'll pay you this much with a high school diploma. And when they kind of finally have an adult come to them, talk like a man, and treat them like an adult, and just I don't need to sugarcoat this. They they usually snap back pretty quick because they've never actually had someone just be blunt with them and be real with them. So, and that's kind of where my life kind of pushes me to go with some of these kids.
Have you had a moment so far when you knew that you had a real impact on one of your students' lives?
Um, no, I mean, I've gotten like positive feedback. I've taught classes, whether it was me teaching the current class that I've had, or I've taught classes through the CLSA, or when I interned for that class. I've gotten good feedback, and I've always had people like telling my kids, "Hey, dude, you're super lucky to have that instructor. Oh, dude, he was super cool. He taught me this, taught me this." But to me, I don't think there's any like I saved 7 people's lives and I saved 6 babies from a burning building. It's just I, I cared. I saw someone who needed help, and it was kind of just like, yeah, and we'll alter it just 1%, but nothing too crazy.
You're far too humble. If an apprentice came back to you in 10 years, what do you hope that they'd say to you?
Dude, I just want them to keep going. I want them to kill it, dude. I want them to get their license. I want them to be better than me. I want them to, like, we still haven't dealt with the recession since I've been in the industry. I want to know that they're still working, that they're still working for a company that they love and still in surveying, that if and when this stuff takes another hit and we're all out of work, if I find out all my kids are still working, I'm stoked. Like that's where I want them to be, and that's where I've kind of been pushing them since day one is you need to make yourself recession proof now, not in 2008 when it all collapses, you know?
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Tim. You've given us a really deep look into your human experience and how it relates to the next generation of surveying here. If one of us was interested in getting in contact with someone at Local 12, how would they?
So you can either contact Local 12 offices out of Rancho Cucamonga, or you can find me on LinkedIn and I can also get you directing the right way.
Thank you. Well, cue intro, interesting bumper music here. We're going One last question for you. We're going into a segment that I like to call the Surveyor Soapbox. It's a space in unwritten records that I want to give land surveyors a platform to speak freely and candidly about their work, experiences, or opinions in or about the profession. So the question that I came up for you today, I think went well with this topic, and it's, while you've been in the industry for a few years, you're still considered a young surveyor. What is one thing that you would like to see change from our mentors' generation to better our field as a whole?
So my main thing is, dude, I want to see mentorship, ownership of their people. No more your side of the truck, my side of the truck. No more you're not running the rod. No more. Like I want party chiefs to understand that their legacy is attached to more than just the points they set. Right? When I sit there and I get a freaking chainman from Parker, am I going to be excited or am I going to be bummed because I know does Parker train his guy? Does Parker not train his guy? Like party chiefs need to understand that their chainmen, their apprentices, everybody underneath them is an exact reflection of them. Right? That apprentice is only going to be as capable as that chief was. And if we start taking that ownership and understanding that that is associated with our legacy and our success, to me, that's what's going to bring the industry of surveying, local 12, the JC, everything. That's what's going to bring this up to that next level.
Thank you again, Tim. This has been a blast. I know I've learned a lot by sitting down with you, and I know everyone else will thoroughly enjoy learning too. Who is someone or something you would like to hear on the next Unwritten Records episode?
Dude, there's so many people that I think are so vocal about our profession that there's like I kind of feel bad because I'm not going to mention all of them. Like to me, I think you got Kyle Brook, you have Trent Keenan, you have Jerry Mayhew, who's an absolute wealth of knowledge. You've Dr. Nettleman, you have one of our instructors, Angela Wagner. You have I'm gonna absolutely murder her name. Um, let's see, Farah Echeverry. She's another stud that I've seen out here on LinkedIn doing great things. Like just understanding their story and hearing their perspective of it, because everybody's got something a little bit different. I I think all of those people would be absolute studs.
Is there anything else you'd like to say while I have you on the program?
Absolutely not. I think I've self-incriminated enough, and we should be good from there, man.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. If you're listening and you want to share your story with the land surveying community next, go to bit.ly/your unwritten record to share a brief description of your surveying story, and the Unwritten Records staff will get back to you shortly. For more information about the California Young Surveyors Network, visit www caysn.org to find your local chapter and the upcoming events in your area. We want your company to be represented on Unwritten Records. We are currently looking for sponsors to support our events in person and online. Please email info@caysn.org. For Unwritten Records, I'm Parker Phillips. So long, friends. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Those are good times, dude.